Well, welcome to the Middlesex Moments radio show. I'm Dr. Anna Wasesha. I'm the president of Middlesex Community College, and I'm really excited today because Ben Gelfand, Gelfand, right?
That's right.
I had a good friend who was a Helfand, Helvand.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, I have to adjust my mind. So Ben is a student in our new honors program, and you are a graduate of which high school?
I went to Daniel Hand in Madison, Connecticut.
Madison. And you just graduated?
I took a gap year, actually. I graduated in 2012.
Yeah.
So I took a gap year and I went to Europe. I lived in Spain for 3 months.
Oh, I want to hear about that.
It was fantastic. I'm a musician, and so in Spain I was taking classes and also studying flamenco guitar, and it was fantastic. It was a really good experience.
What kind of classes?
Spanish classes.
How's your Spanish?
Good. Yeah, I can speak Spanish now, so it was a really, really good experience, especially after high school. And then I came back and I worked during the summer for a little bit, and here I am.
In the honors program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you told me you hadn't applied to college, but yeah.
I hadn't applied to college because I didn't do well in high school. I didn't do very well in high school. And so, I wasn't thinking I was ready for college. My sisters had both gone to college. My sisters are both older than I am. And so I was at a different place than they were when they were seniors in high school. So I took a gap year and did a bunch of different programs, and now I'm here. I really decided that Middlesex would be a good idea because I saw on the website that they had this honors opportunity, and I figured, financially, it's very difficult right now for people to send their kids to college, and so it was a great way to get an associate's degree and then transfer to save a lot of money.
So we'll talk a little bit later about where you want to transfer. But you're right. I mean, 4 years of university education is much more expensive than 2 years of community college and then the balance of 2 years. And we have lots of transfer opportunities, including the one for the University of Connecticut. Have you?
Right.
And I think they've told you about that, maybe?
Yeah, no, they've told us about that. They've told the University of Connecticut also. I know that there's a lot of linkage with the different state universities. Mm-hmm. And so, really keeping my options open.
And then there's an Etherington Scholarship at Wesleyan University. And Dale Griffith, who's a faculty member here in the English department, she was an Etherington Scholar. And I've met so many, 1 or 2 a year from Middlesex go over there. And it's a great opportunity to go to Wesleyan as well. We have to take a break. These little sections of the radio show go really fast. When we come back, let's talk about anything we want to talk about. How does that sound? Good.
Sounds great.
This is Anna Wasesha, and I'm back after that brief introduction and the little public service announcement, talking with Ben Gelfand, who is a first-year student here in our honors program at the college, and he was just talking about taking a gap year. When is the very first time you heard the term gap year, and why did it appeal to you?
Gap year appealed to me because I was a junior in high school. It was when I was a junior, and I was looking at my grades again and thinking I'm not sure any colleges that I would want to go to would really appreciate the grades that I have and allow me to, be accepted. So I thought about taking a gap year, and there's this really good program called Interim. And it's this woman who has run it since 1983 or something like that. And basically what she does is she finds a bunch of different programs all over the world that are well known, that have been done many, many times. Thousands of programs. It's incredible the amount that she works with. And she basically meets with you. It was out of Princeton. She lives in Princeton. And so we met, and she basically meets with you, and she asks you what you want to do, what are your interests, and she just comes up with this whole array of different ideas for programs that you can do all over the world. And so I told her that I'm a musician. I told her that I'm interested in cooking. And she came up with different programs, and I got to do both of those things.
I've been really lucky to travel a lot of my life, but one of my goals is to eat my way across Spain. I've never been to Spain, but I understand the food is incredible.
The food is great. The tapas are really, really good. I was in Granada, which is the southernmost region of Spain. It's in Andalusia, and I don't know if you've heard about the accent, but the Andalusian accent is one of the most difficult accents to understand in the Spanish-speaking world. But yeah, there's a lot of culture down there, really, with flamenco and just with the Gitanos. Those are the people. It's very, very culturally aware.
Yeah.
It's really, I would very highly recommend it.
Did you live in a dormitory?
I lived with a host family for a little while.
Yeah.
And I lived in a collection of villages that was called the Albai Singh. which is like in the mountainous regions of Granada. It's like the old country. It was fascinating. It was very cool.
I mean, I always say, in my perfect world, we'll talk about your perfect world as we get further into this radio program. But in my perfect world, every college student would spend time abroad.
Definitely.
Or certainly, I mean, even if it's not abroad, because I'll say, okay, that's maybe more difficult. Spend time even in the United States or in North America in an environment that's so totally different from their own that they have to learn how other people in the world live. I think it leads...
It's hugely important. I think it's hugely important just for your cultural awareness. Really helps a lot. And I know a lot of people who've actually traveled Europe, and when they come back, they feel more patriotic. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because even one of the things we're learning in history right now is that when the ancient Greeks had to colonize at one point, and when they left Greece and they started living in other places, they really came up with this new entity and idea of what it meant to be Greek, whereas before it was nothing like that. They were who they were. Very, very interesting. So it's like through history, it's just there are a whole bunch of lessons through history that it's very important to leave and become a little more cosmopolitan.
Exactly. Actually, when I went to the seminar, the honors seminar, the course you're taking, and somebody asked me about the books, at least somewhere along the line I brought up The Wizard of Oz, because that's also exactly the story there. Dorothy never leaves Kansas, but she thinks she's gone to Oz. And then she has to collect all those pieces of herself to come back, click her heels, and find out there's no place like home. Right?
Exactly.
That's the way it ends up. Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to what you can get from, going across the Atlantic.
Yeah,
in my case.
Travel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wonder when I hear about the importance of gap years, which I think you've just testified to the incredible importance of it, because it broadens your worldview, but it also gives you time to mature and find out who you are and what's important to you. So what do you think about the idea of mandatory service? Has anybody ever said to you, we don't have a draft, but we should have some kind of mandatory service?
That is very interesting, and I know it's a very touchy subject. I've actually recently read, it was an interview that I saw on C-SPAN of this guy who, he's a veteran, and he talks about how today there's this huge separation between the military and the people of the United States, and how that is a shame, and really how a mandatory service, would change that mindset. And of course, if we go back in history and we see people like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, people who are like in show business, for example, there's this huge importance of like the mindset of Americans as people in the military. And so it's interesting from that standpoint. I'm not sure, what I mean by that is it's interesting. Perhaps it would change American culture and maybe in more positive ways. I don't know what I think about it as being beneficial in anything else than just kind of changing American culture into the way it used to be, going back to that culture.
Right. Well, one element of it is confidence in your own government, and well, maybe this radio show will be played at a different time. This week, we're on the eve of the possibility of shutting down the government because the House and the Senate can't agree on a budget. And, and so you're a young person, right? So do you have confidence in the government?
That's an interesting question. I do have confidence in the government. I like to have an optimistic standpoint. It's tough because, it seems like every day we hear new things about, whether it's scandals or whether it's things being kept from the public. But I tend to have a more optimistic standpoint than is necessary. It's an interesting question again. I'm not sure.
Well, when you were in Spain, did you pick up the International Herald Tribune, or how did you get news about the United States, and did you watch it, and did you have a kind of a different lens that you were watching it through?
When I was in Spain, the Colorado incident happened.
The Aurora Theater.
Yeah. And actually, so I went to England first, and then I went to Spain. I was in England for a month and a half at a cooking school. And when I was at the cooking school was when I received the information about the Aurora shootings. And the people in the cooking school, their opinion, because they were mostly from England, their opinion was very interesting to me because they talk about how there's such a problem with violence in America and how you don't see mass shootings to this quantity happen anywhere else in England is really what they were comparing it to. My perspective didn't really change because we've heard, while I was home, there were incidents of shootings like that, for example, had been a problem. I do think I looked at it from their lenses, though, and did think, wow, there is a problem. There is a bigger problem with shooting than I had expected because they're so shocked by it. Whereas to me, we hear things like Columbine, we hear things like Sandy Hook, which happened later, obviously, but there's a certain kind of numbing effect that is a result of this being an incessant event.
Yeah, right.
Kind of
right.
situation.
It's just part of our culture.
Yeah, and it is part of our culture. So I guess I was able to have a change of mind in that way. Whereas people here, again, we don't think of it as some kind of issue. We do think of it as an issue. I take that. We don't think about it as this tremendous problem that needs to be focused on right now. Again, the mass quantity, the number of times it's happened, I think is making us view it as just another thing. Whereas elsewhere, it's really seems disastrous beyond belief.
Right. So kind of what you're saying is any one of these incidences is not a game changer. Where now
exactly.
everything's
it unfortunately seems that way.
And right. The Boston Marathon bombing, all of these things. Right. So, okay, so I'm going to go back to you're a young person. Mm-hmm. I get to do that for just a little bit. And you're interested in media and radio. So
very.
Do you think there's a side of American popular culture that we hear about on radio, on television, at the movies, in the video games that has kind of numbed us to the level of violence?
Definitely. And I hate to say this for anyone who is a big fan of Grand Theft Auto 5 that just came out, but I was playing that and it's so realistic. I don't know if you've heard of this game. It's a video game that just came out. Grand Theft Auto is a series where now I feel bad because anyone who's listening who's my age is not going to appreciate me bashing it, but it's true. It's a game where basically you can steal cars and steal things and kill people, and it's so real. This game that just came out like a few weeks ago. I can't imagine a 10-year-old playing it and it having any, it's too real. It definitely has a negative effect, I think, especially because as time goes on, technology gets so much better, so the graphics get so much better. It has a very, again, it's like a numbing effect. This is a different kind of thing, but it's a numbing effect to the view of images that are so disgusting. Makes the idea of it less bad, I think, if you're continuously viewing it. And yeah, I think that's a problem. I do actually think that you can't just make a video game rated mature and expect that only people who are older than 17 to play it.
Right. But
what are you going to do?
I don't know. That was the question I was going to ask you. I mean, you're one of the themes in your honors seminar is leadership, right? So if you ran the world, what would you do?
That is definitely true. Whew. What would I do? I would probably try and figure out a way that this is something that only adults can do. Like, now that I've gotten to college, I guess, and this goes back to me saying that anyone who's my age is not going to like what I'm about to say. Now that I've gotten to college, I've really tried to grow up. And so I don't think, so in that way, I think that kids really should not play this. I think that you really shouldn't play this. I mean, even at my age, it's like I watch this and I think as a man, if any man is honest, there is the slight attraction to any kind of fighting. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure that people who are my age hold the same views that I do to allow them to be as mature as I am. And I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to act conceited. My point is that I think people are not very mature. It's a tough field to discuss because I think that it is a problem, and I think even adults will be negatively affected by violence.
Yeah. And you had the benefit of a gap year too. I mean, so as a college student, you're slightly more advanced in that regard because you were on your own in a different world. Or
definitely true.
Different
by
languages.
Myself
yeah.
For about a little over 4 months.
Gap is an odd term to me. It's like a stretch year in a way.
Right.
We have to take another break, and when
Please.
we come back, we'll talk about this and more things of interest. Well, welcome back to the Middlesex Moments radio show with our honors student, Ben Gelfand. And we're talking about media and the world and thinking about how you're processing the world that you're experiencing. Do you have confidence in government? Does it help to get away from all the world that's super familiar to you and see a broader world and then come back and establish yourself? So now you're here in this honors program, which requires you to be full-time. So you're taking 5 courses.
Yep, that's right.
And the 5 courses are?
I'm taking art history, I'm taking Western civilization, intermediate algebra, freshman seminar, and composition.
And so that's 15 hours of classroom time in a week. And then how much time do you spend outside of class, do you think? I probably
Working?
On school, yes.
Not as much as I should, but I am trying very hard. It's tough because I think the way that my classes are actually scheduled, the most work that I have to do is for my Western civilization. I mean, it's also the most fun. But the problem, it's basically a lecture class, and so we have to take the lecture, record it, go home, and then listen to the lecture, rewrite notes. And so it's a lot of work. He says, my professor says, 3 hours for every hour and a half of lecture. That's a long time, especially because Mondays I have, so for example, Mondays I have history and art history. Tuesdays I have my 2 honors courses and math. And the reason why it's tough is because Tuesday, the 2 honors courses and math, they're so important, but I also want to make sure I'm up to date with my lectures. So it's tough because the days that I get home, like today, I'd rather just focus on the lecture, but I have to do work for comp and, my honors courses. I just think that it's something I got to get over. It's very early in the semester.
Sure.
So.
And it's kind of like multitasking.
Yeah. It is like multitasking.
Yeah, but you are jumping topics a lot. I mean, you're going from ancient Civ, right? Mm-hmm. And in art history, what period is that?
That really worked out. Art history is second period. Well,
but I mean, what period in history?
It really worked out because we're basically learning what we learned in Civ. We then learn the art of the same period.
Oh,
it's so perfect because I go from Western civilization to art history, and in Western Civ we're learning about the Old Kingdom in ancient Egypt, and then in art history we're learning about the art from the Old Kingdom.
Perfect.
I'm really happy with it.
Yeah.
I do wish that I had more time, but I also I'm into I don't know. Do you know who David Allen is?
No.
He's like a time management coach. I'm really into that stuff, like just kind of trying to find ways to be better with time. And I do know that people who say that I don't have enough time do. They just aren't using their time effectively.
So what give me one strategy that David Allen would recommend, because I can always use help managing my time.
Waking up early.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And, particularly like things like going to the gym, he says helps tremendously with your focus and you're just feeling good. So that, he would definitely say that going to the gym would inherently have an impact on how well you manage your time, I'm sure. And then people say, I don't have enough time to go to the gym. He says if you wake up earlier, just an hour earlier, go to the gym, and then you're awake, so then you have the time to spend, things like that. There's a lot on YouTube about David Allen, but I haven't, he has like a lot of stuff on sale that I haven't gotten, so I'm not totally sure TED Talk. He does a fantastic TED Talk. That's where I originally heard him from.
Yeah, so right now you mentioned, kind of skipping over topics, the TED Talks and YouTube. So how much of what you read is online? Like, how much of what you think about comes to you from the internet?
Everything.
Okay.
I really think it's everything. I'm on YouTube a lot. You can get pretty much anything you want from YouTube. Even, just with history, if I'm doing history, you can look up any documentary about ancient times is on YouTube. And even, it's kind of funny, a lot of people who want to kind of be professors or want to teach will upload videos of themselves just saying in ancient Egypt. Like,
right.
So it's just all there. It really is all there, it's a good thing, and it can have negative impacts. It's with everything as close as a click, like everything a click away, I think has negative impacts. It causes laziness, I think, because it's so easy to do that sometimes you just don't do it. But we're definitely blessed with this treasure trove of information.
It's true. You can look up anything. I love it. But I wonder, like what you just said, does it, for example, in my generation, memorization was incredibly important. If you were learning Spanish, I believe in a foreign language, you just have to memorize it.
Yeah,
you have to learn a lot of new words and forms of the verb and things like that.
Right.
But, I mean, do you think that people don't have the mental agility that they used to have? Because if I want to know, like, what's the capital of Ohio, I just look it up. I don't have to remember.
I'm not totally sure, just because anyone who's my age, and I'd say younger than 25, has always lived with this. Always. And from the time they were little, it's just gotten more. So I don't have the perspective of someone. It's interesting. I was talking to my dad, asking him like about working out, and if he thinks that people 20 years ago were less sedentary than they are now. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know, because I wasn't there. And it's very similar. It's like, I'm not totally sure. What was the question again?
Well, the question is kind of where do you get your information?
Right.
You're saying online, and then and you were saying what kind of makes you lazy? And I was thinking,
if people are more lazy.
Yeah,
that's what you're asking.
Right.
Yeah, I do. I should have just said yeah, because how could you not be? Is really why everything is there. I mean, I don't know how much you know about Twitter, but it was just. I'm not even sure how it started, but I do know it was just another way of communicating with your friends. And now, I mean, you can get the entire New York Times paper on it, The Economist. You can get, and they just tweet, basically, do you know how?
Yeah, 144 characters, right?
You just follow someone and they just tweet. And so you just see information like Egyptian president, blah, blah, blah. And so you just click on the link. It's incredible.
I know.
And so, but again, it's all there. So it's like overwhelming.
Right, it's overwhelming, and then, my reservation is that it's so superficial that you can live your life based on headlines.
Right.
You kind of, the Egyptian, government is being overthrown, but you don't know, like, why and how and what this means, and for that you have to be patient and read the whole article. Although you're right, Twitter does take you to it.
But yeah, you definitely can live by the headlines. I completely agree with that.
So we are embarking on this honors program for the first time. We wanted students to be full-time. Do you think that's a good idea? Should you be full-time to be an honors student?
I don't work, and because I don't work, I can do it. I definitely don't think if you want to work, you can take all of these courses. Because, of course, as you said, the honors program requires you to take 5. Mm-hmm. I couldn't. I really couldn't. You might be able to. I don't think I could. I mean, I have a friend who's taking 4 courses, and he had to. Actually, I just had a conversation with my friend Mark, and he said that he was taking 5, but he had to drop one because he's working, and he would be. I mean, even just with scheduling time, he said he would be late. So it wasn't he would be late to work if he took all 5. So it wasn't even a matter of balancing work and schoolwork. It was a matter of like actual time.
Yeah, right.
And it's very interesting that in college, like we were talking about during the break, in college you have a lot more responsibilities, but you have a lot more time. It's kind of a wake-up call because you have a lot of time, but it's much harder. So if you put it on a balance beam, it definitely equalizes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So
right. The cost of higher education is a big topic in the press and definitely. Certainly in people's minds as parents are thinking about how they're going to get their children through college. But I don't know if many people realize that the 5th course is free. So there's no tuition charged. We have banded tuition. So if you pay for 4 courses, you can take the 5th course for no more tuition.
That's great.
Yeah, it is great. And seriously, if you want to get through in 2 years, you got to take 5 courses or go to the school in the summer. You've got that, but then you've got to pay the extra tuition. But if you take this time, I think you're really lucky. I want to talk to you at the end of the semester. Mm-hmm. So let's do this again because you're kind of just into this. This is just September 30th, right? So the first full month of college. Right. I want to know how it feels at Maybe after exams, because
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
want
that'd be a
to
good time.
interfere with the flow of things.
That'd be a good time.
But to be able to take the time to just be a college student and just focus on ancient Rome and on Egypt and on what are you doing in English composition?
In English comp, we're studying different ways to cite sources. There's very specific guidelines to how to not plagiarize also.
Which goes right to the internet because honestly, that's all free, so the feeling is whatever's on the internet you can just pull in, but you got to cite it. Good. And I wanted to ask you, did you participate in debate in high school?
I didn't.
Okay, but what could you have? Was there a debate team?
There was, yeah.
Because one of the things that somebody was arguing, because we argue all the time in higher education,
right,
is that debate teaches you how to have civil discourse. I mean, I may be on one side of an issue, you may be on the other, but learning how to debate makes it possible for us to have an intelligent conversation about things about which we disagree. And there's so little of that, certainly in mainstream media. I'm afraid we're running out of time. So why don't you tell me now what you think you might want to be doing 10 years from now, and then I'll ask you the same question at the end of the semester. But I'm going to, I'll write it down, but I won't tell you what you said. So let's see.
All right, that's
What do you
good.
think you're going to do? Are you 19?
I'm 19.
So when you're 29, what do you think you're going to be doing?
I had this conversation with a friend last night, actually. I am a musician, so I do think that after Middlesex, I'm going to move to New York City and pursue that. And with that also comes an uncertainty, of course, though. I don't think that's all I'll be doing. I don't think I'll be pursuing that, especially when I'm 29, if it hasn't worked out. But
we're all really complex human beings, and so I think it's a mistake to try to think of yourself as only one thing. Whatever it is, because you're not. You're all kinds of, you're a friend to somebody.
Exactly.
You may be a parent, or you're certainly a child. You've got your own parents, or you're a sibling. We're a very complex and intelligent being, right?
Yeah.
With many interests and values. And life is a process of discovery. So, 29, musician, New York City. It sounds good. We'll review that in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Well, we should say to our listeners that if they're interested in learning more about Middlesex Community College, they've just learned a huge amount by listening to Ben Gelfand, one of our honors students. But there are other ways, including the internet, so you can go to MxCC.edu and you'll find out about this wonderful college in Middletown, Connecticut. I'm Anna Wasesha, president of Middlesex Community College, wishing you a good day.